Hey folks, it's Tommy Frugal Prepper. I'm going to go ahead and reload some 9mm here real quick. Just do a kind of quick video on it. I'm going to reload 100. I'll probably just do 50 for the video. But, basically I have this brass, which is cleaned and deprimed. And then these I've gone through and I've expanded them with the powder 3 expanding die. And I put a primer in them so that they're ready to go. And you just basically have to expand them enough that your bullet will kind of sit down in here and just stay in there temporarily until you can get it in the press. Oh, I didn't mean to put that in there. Oh, crap. Okay, I think I got it. There we go. Okay. But I'm using the Everglades 9mm 114 grain plate, round nose, flat point plated. These are the value bullets. These are like their cheapest ones, I think, for 9mm. I like to run the really light bullets with a semi kind of hot load in my AR-9. It seems to work. So these work fine in my handgun too, but mostly I'm reloading these just to shoot in the AR-9. So basically we're just going to take our brass. We're going to take a couple reloading trays. Make sure they're clean. They don't have any powder on them or anything. And we're just going to take, and we're just going to set up 50 of them in the one tray. Just like so. It's always a good idea just to keep some brass, ready to go. So if you need to reload some real quick, you can just grab some that's already primed and expanded, dump your powder in it, seat your bullet, and you're good to go. Now this is 9mm, so I don't trim this. I've always had them come out under the maximum trim length when I shot them, so I don't even really measure them anymore. But when you get into higher pressure rounds, like 357 Magnums and 44 Magnums and even 40 Smith & Wesson 10mm, those can come out and need to be trimmed, and that adds a whole extra step to the process because the cases can get too long, so you have to trim them down, and then you have to deburr them and chamfer them. One of the great things about 9mm, it just doesn't seem to have enough pressure to really stretch that case out enough to make it need trims. I've gone through and loaded thousands of these and measured every one of them, and they've never come out beyond the maximum trim length. So I just don't worry about it anymore. Nope, drop that one. Have to get him. Oh, of course he went flying under the. Oh no, he didn't. He went here. I was gonna say he probably went flying under my reloading bench. So now we have all 50 of these just stacked in here, and now we're just going to measure out our powder. And I write down my load information, and really the only 9mm loading I have is this for these bullets. And I usually run 4.3 grains if I know I'm going to run them in my pistol, although 4.4 is fire fine. But 4.4 grains for the AR-9, 114 grain plated round nose flat point, and I run accurate number 2 powder in them. I really like accurate number 2, but whatever powder you use, just work up a load for it. And I do 1.090 overall length. Seems to be the perfect amount for feeding and accuracy. So now we're going to set up and measure this powder out. So basically for this, I'm just using my Lyman powder measure. I'm using some accurate number 2. We'll go ahead and top this off a little. Now I'm just going to grab my powder thingy, my powder tray, measuring scoop tray thingy, and I'm going to make sure this is level. So, then put my tray on there. There we go. Now we zeroed out the scale. There we go. Tear that again. And now I'm just going to take it, do a little measurement. And that first one came out 4.46. First one usually comes out a little heavy. 4.48. 4.44. Better off just to run a few through here. 4.50. So she needs to be brought back just a little. Just do a few more. 4.44. 4.42. That's close enough. 4.48. Yeah. This power measure can throw off a little. It can throw up to a tenth off. So I can usually get pretty dead on at 4.40 and 4.42 though. 4.42. 4.40. 4.38. So that's pretty much as close as I'm going to get it with this powder measure. And this is a really fine grain powder. And powder measures have problems with measuring that really fine grain powder super accurately. But a few tenths of a grain here or there isn't going to make any difference for this ammo. I know people think that that's just horrible. No, I did not have my microphone clipped on my shirt. It was laying on the desk, but I think you could still hear that. But basically, what I do now is I just work from one tray to the other. So I take this, I fill it, I stick it over here. I take this, I fill it, I put it over here. So one tray is empty, and one tray is for ones that have been filled. Every fifth one or so, I take a measurement. That one's a little light at 4.3. So let's measure again. 4.36. 4.38. I need to open her up just a hair. 4.42. Yeah, there we go. Like I said, a tenth of a grain one way or the other is acceptable. I'm not loading right at the rugged edge of the max load for this round. And now we'll go ahead and measure another one. That's 4.36. It's a little light. We'll open her up a little more. Yeah. 4.36. We'll open her up a little more. 4.42. There, that's a little better. 4.36. 4.44. 4.42. Okay. That's averaging out about 4.4. And yeah, I know the keyboard warriors are probably firing up the comments talking about me having cigarettes at the reloading bench. I don't smoke when there's powder out. So like right now, I'm not smoking. Right. Once the bullets are all seated and put away, and the powder's over here, and this is clear, then I'll smoke. But I don't smoke right now. And now we'll measure one of these. See where we're at. It said 4.42 and then switched to 4.44. 4.42, yeah. About where we want to be. If you're loading right on the rugged edge, what you would need to do is to get it close but under, and then you would use this as a powder trickler. And you can just trickle some powder in there while it's on the scale and bring it right up to the max load. When you're loading less than the max load, you can have a little variation from round to round. It's not going to kill you. But reasons that you want to load exactly is you're loading right up to a max load, or you're doing a super high precision load that you've worked up, that you want that exact amount of grains for, and the exact length and the exact right crimp, And I'm using a Lee's Classic press, whatever this thing's called, Breech Lock Challenger. This whole kit's like $200. I'm not loading for absolute accuracy here, okay? I'm just loading some rounds that are plenty accurate enough when I go to the range and I shoot. I'm not out trying to hunt caribou or something from 3,000 yards away. But, some guys really get into having the super accurate loads. You're just going to need a better press, number one, than this Lee stuff to get the exact crimps and exact things. Get them that exact. And you're going to have to use a powder trickler to bring your powder up slowly right to the exact number, the exact amount of grains that you want it to be. 4.40, okay. So now we can take this other reloading tray, put it away. I'll take all this extra powder where I've been tearing it out and put it back in here. And put that away. And so now what you want to do is look down in every individual case. Make sure it has a roughly the same amount of powder, that it has powder, that's not double the amount of powder. Make sure they all look even and consistent and they all have powder, and I check each one twice. and I look at each physical one on the way down, and then I look at each physical one on the way back up, and just make sure that they all have powder and none of them are empty. Empties can cause a squib load, which can blow up a gun. You don't want that. And double charges can cause too much powder, which can blow up a gun. You don't want that. So now we just take our bullets and we set them in here like so. And some people will just set the bullet in there as they pick it up to throw it in the reloading press. That's fine too. I just prefer to set them all in there ahead of time. That's what I do. It's probably faster to stick them in there as you pick them up to put them in the press, but I don't know. I just do it this way. The way I do it is just how I've come to do it. So, and I'm also, as I seat the bullet in here, I'm looking at each casing just to triple check a third time that it does have powder in it. So that's another check you can do. I've never had a squib as many reloads as I've done. I hope I never do, but I know that's happening. No, I have had a squib. It was on Hornady Critical Defense factory loaded ammunition. Um, so, even the good stuff can sometimes have a squib. Luckily, I noticed it and I didn't fire the next round that loaded in the gun. Um, it didn't cycle and I tapped it and racked it and I was like, that one felt kind of weird. I'm not going to pull the trigger again. And so I unloaded and looked. Sure enough, there's a bullet stuck in my barrel. I just tapped it out with a Phillips screwdriver and I kept on shooting. And usually the factory equipment has a lot of sensors and weight things and switches to stop a non-charged case from being able to be loaded. But I suppose every once in a while one can slip through. And so now I've got all the bullets in here, and so now we're ready to start seating them in the press. So I'll take you back over to the press here and show you how we set that up. This is my reloading bench helper right here. See, I'm a reloading bench helper. Yes, I am. See, I like to help. I like to sit here and watch Daddy reload. It's my favorite thing to do. My favorite thing. What? What? My goodness. So basically what we're going to do is take our bullet seating and crimp die. We're going to screw that in. And then I'm going to back this off a turn. And then we're going to just bring it up to 0.1090 slowly. Really, that actually crimped it too. I should have backed the crimping off. But oh well. Okay, so what we want to do is we don't want to crimp it yet. We want to get them set. Point 1090, 115, 113, And then we're at 1090. Okay. So now what we want to do is back this off and screw that down until it crimps right. And that's too much. That's still too much. That's going to be about right on the crimp. And so now we're just going to take and tighten this part up. This where it's just snug and touching. And now we should be correct for our next one. Nope, 1099. So we got to go a little farther. I'm just going to tighten the whole thing down to give it a little more crimp. 1093. 1090. And then we'll just be dead on for the rest of them. 1090. And so now we're just ready to stick the rest of them in here and crimp them. Now you can run the factory crimp die over these. I typically don't because this is just some range blanket ammo. I just do the roll crimp and it's fine. Nope, dropped one. And every once in a while, what we'll do is we'll just check one, make sure it's still on. 1090, yep. Now I should have flared these a little bit more because some of my bullets are coming out and tipping over like that. So I have to kind of stick them back in there. I just should have flared it just a little more, but you don't want to flare more than you have to because that does weaken the brass and shorten its life. As far as like a lot of people ask me a lot of times about the Glock bulging, like you have Glock bulge, and I think there's a lot of myths surrounding that. So the really old original Glocks had a bigger cutout back here, and you would get a little bulge in the case. And yeah, some of those cases you just couldn't quite get them uh, crimped in far enough. All of the modern Glocks, so my Glock 45, just doesn't bulge that much. It doesn't have as much of a cutout, and it's fine. Um, and even the ones that have bulged, I just resize them normally, in my resizing die, and that bulge is not enough to make a difference in any gun that I shoot it in, whether it's a Glock, it's my AR-9, or it's a different 9mm. But I suppose there were some of those early, 1980s Glocks that really put a bigger bulge in the case, and you can get a bulge buster die and stuff like that for it. I've just never found a need for it. Probably, more than half of this brass came out of a Glock, and it all resized and it'll fire just fine. If I get one that's exceptionally bulged and I can't get the bulge out of it, I just throw it away and move on to another piece of brass. I mean, it's a rare occasion. Oh, I dropped another bullet. There. Okay. You see that one there? I'll just check one every so often here. .090. Doing good. And there we go. There's 50 rounds of 9mm. So that's another, 30 seconds of fun on the range. uh, so that's just how I kind of reload some bulk 9mm just to shoot and practice and train with. Like I said, this isn't like super accurate ammo. It's 9mm first of all, so it's not going to be for a sniper rifle, right? It's not going to be like shooting sub MOA at 100 yards. You're just not going to do it. But it's fairly accurate out to 25, which is what my AR-9 is for, and it's as good as a factory loaded ammunition. Actually shoots a little better in my gun, just because I customized that length and load and the powder, and just to where I finally brought that accuracy right in there. So, it's up to you if you think it's worth it to do this for 9mm. I would say, from a prepping standpoint, it's a good idea to have the ability and the supplies to reload some ammo in case you find yourself in a position where you can't buy it. Like when we first went into the whole pandemic thing, we couldn't buy ammunition. Um, with the riots and all the new gun owners, and just everything went crazy, and everybody went out buying it up, and you just couldn't walk in and buy a box of 9mm anywhere. And if you did find it, they wanted $80 a box or something for it. Then it becomes really good to be able to just load some up and take it to the range. Even especially like if you're shooting 380 or 38s or 357s, can be some real interesting times trying to find those other calibers when all the reloading's 5.56 and 9, just cranking it out because it's the most common, and you just don't see any of the other calibers coming in stock. And especially for things like 38 Smith and Wesson, which is what my mom carries. I have dies and stuff to reload that as well, because when there's an ammo shortage, I haven't seen a box of 38 Smith & Wesson on the shelf since before the whole ammo shortage, and I might not see one again for a couple more years. Well, I can reload her some ammo to go take out shooting. So when you shoot those strange calipers, uh, it really becomes handy to have some stuff to reload. But even in the common stuff, um, right now the price is probably about the same because the primers are so expensive. Normally it'd be a little cheaper. Um, but like I said, I like to load it myself so I know what it's going to do, how it's going to perform. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. This is Tom, your frugal prepper.